In this video, I'm going to be giving you my first impressions of the impossible I-1 analog instant camera. Hey everybody, welcome to Dan Bullman Photography. If this is your first time watching, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below to stay up to date on more photography content that I'm putting out. Now let's get to it. Now one of my first impressions of the camera is that it has a really nice feel to it. It's mostly entirely made out of plastic, but it doesn't really feel plasticky, if that makes sense. It kind of has a nice grip on it, and it feels nice to hold. One thing I did notice about the ergonomics, though, is that my thumb gently rests on the shutter button just naturally in terms of how I pick up and hold the camera. Now, if you're not really paying close attention, like I didn't when I first picked up the camera, I actually went like this and wasted a frame when the camera was on. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how I place my thumb when I'm holding the camera. So this camera does have autofocus. So another thing about this is that you have to half press the shutter in order to focus the camera. And the difference between half pressing on this and actually taking the photo is very slight. So you kind of have to be very careful in terms of when you're focusing the camera, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It does make you more mindful of what you're taking photos of. But say you're shooting outside in the cold in Boston with gloves on, you have to be a little bit more mindful of pressing that button and making sure that you're focusing and not taking a photo. Another thing about the autofocus is that it is pretty reliable. I've had pretty good results with this. If I was able to hold the camera steady and focus on my subject, I was able to get really sharp pictures. And so that was really nice. Now the viewfinder's right here on the top, and I actually kind of hated this viewfinder. It's really annoying. So in order to frame up your shot, there's a dot right in the center of this back viewfinder part right here, and you have to line it up in the middle of the circle of the front piece here. And both of the dot and the circle take up a lot of the frame, so it's actually kind of distracting when you're composing an image to see those in there. Now obviously you want to frame those up correctly so that you know you got your framing right in terms of how this matches up to the lens, but the viewfinder is honestly not that great. I kind of wish that they had something that would either view through the lens or be a little bit easier to see through than this kind of viewfinder on the top. Another thing about this is just attached with a magnet, so it's really easy to come off. And I found that the button to open up the viewfinder was actually like really annoying. It doesn't respond very well, and you have to be really careful because apply too much pressure and you can end up just pushing the whole viewfinder off the camera, which is something that actually happened in my unboxing video. Push this in. Ooh. But other than that, if you get used to the viewfinder, it is easy to frame up a shot, and I found that it is really accurate when you get it right. So here are some of my first images that I took with the camera. I'll put these up on the screen as I'm talking. Now I found that, as usual, Impossible Project film is a little bit unpredictable in terms of the color temperature, but I really like the results that I got out of these photos. Now it was really cold outside on a lot of the days that I was shooting, so some of the images turned out kind of bluish, but to solve this, I put the photos in my jacket pocket close to my body while they were developing, and the ones I did that for, I got better results. One other thing that was kind of a pet peeve of mine with this camera is there's no frame counter on the camera. So it's impossible, no pun intended, to just look at the camera and tell how many photos you've taken. And now for me, I don't always shoot a whole pack of film when I'm out on a shoot. So sometimes I forget how many shots I've taken. Now you can see how many photos you've taken when you open up the app, but there's no just quick way at a glance to look at the camera and see what your frame counter is. I would have preferred that they had some sort of analog counter in the back of a camera, like a Polaroid SX70, so that you could just take a quick glance and know how many photos that you have left. But again, for me, most of the pet peeves I had with the camera were really minor issues, and I really liked shooting with it overall. Now one thing that I really liked experimenting with is the app. Now, there is an app that you can connect with this camera and do things like manual exposure, which is pretty rare for Polaroid cameras or instant film cameras to be able to control the aperture and the shutter speed. And they have other cool features like a light painting mode, a double exposure mode, and some other things that I'm really interested to experiment with a little bit more. So it's funny for me because I actually did not think I would like this camera, but so far my first impressions are pretty good. I have enjoyed shooting with it a little bit so far. So I have set up a portrait shoot that I plan to use this camera for, and I'm going to be doing a video on that showing behind the scenes and how to use the camera in a portrait situation. And then later on I do want to do a full review of the camera and a demonstration of how to use all of its various features and functions, but I'm still familiarizing myself with the camera right now, so that will be further down the road after I've had a chance to shoot with it a little bit more. So let me know in the comments what you think of this camera. Have you shot with it before? Are you considering getting it? What do you think overall of the impossible project making a camera and supporting instant film in this day and age? So we'll see you soon, folks. This has been another episode of Dan Bullman Photography. Peace.